Okay, so you're very welcome to the second in the series around business, and we're very lucky today to be here with Jenni Timony. I've known Jenni for many years, long-term entrepreneur, current CEO and founder of FitPink Fitness, and we've had chats through the years about all matter of things, business and non-business related, and I'm very much looking forward today to having the time to spend with you to dig in a little bit deeper. And whilst we've got a bunch of cameras and stuff here, it's actually, I'm really excited to have you here and to learn a lot more about your journey, where you've come from, what's happening with FitPink, and what the future holds. But with that said, thank you so much for taking the time and traveling down to be here with me today. And I suppose by way of introduction, I first got to know Jenni in, was it
2019?
2019?
I think so.
Oh, Lord. 2019. And I was working for Enterprise Ireland at the time, teaching a New Frontiers program in the Enterprise Hub in Letterkenny, whereby Jenni was running that Enterprise Hub. I'm not quite sure what your title.
I was running New Frontiers.
Running the New Frontiers
in the
program.
Northwest, yeah.
And I remember during the lunch breaks having these chats, and you were kind of thinking about, you had this idea for an athleisure brand. And as the course went on, kind of this kind of skeleton got more meat on the bones. And I think by the end of that course, you had it launched, had you?
That's right, yeah. At the end of 2019, it was summer 2019.
2019, yeah. And it's just been really enjoyable to watch your success since that date. And as I said today, I'm just looking forward to learning more. So with that said, Jenni, would you be kind enough just to give me a quick introduction and a background in your own history in entrepreneurship?
Sure. Thanks, Richie. Great to be here. Love to get away to Galway for a day. It's always good. So, yeah, I suppose I started my career in entrepreneurship at the ripe old age of 18. I born in Ireland, spent my teenage years in Australia, came back to Ireland as soon as I'd finished, intended to study. I was classed as an international student, so it was far too expensive. Okay. So I thought, oh, sure, I'll start a business at the ignorance of youth, I suppose, and I thought that sounded like an easy option. So I opened a cafe catering to the tourist market from May to September outside Donegal town. And then the following year, I opened another cafe. So I had a little, series of cafes, I suppose, over those summers. And that would have been in around 95, 96.
Oh, wow.
So that went well. I just thought food was an easy option, and I couldn't cook before I started. And still can't cook very well, but sandwiches were easy. So we had a bit of an issue where in the afternoons, the cafes would be very quiet. So I was trying to think, how can I utilize that spare capacity? So started doing pre-packed sandwiches for the sort of dashboard dining market was starting to emerge. And that kind of quickly outstripped the cafe side of the business. And we opened a designated food production unit. And that grew quite significantly over a period of 6 or 7 or 8 years. We had about 35 people employed. We were doing about 3.5 million a year. And we were driving vans from Donegal to Killarney and everywhere in between 6 days a week. So it was literally an 18-hour a day, 7-day a week business.
And who are you selling into?
We were selling into, we would have been SuperValu Centra, Spar, Central Billing, schools, hospitals, convenience stores, everything. Yeah, Doolittle's, that's right.
All right.
Yeah.
Where did the name come from?
As I said, it was around the time where convenience food was really starting to take off. So I just thought, Doolittle, you do little, we do all the work. Yeah, kind of cheesy.
No, but, I hadn't put it together actually. That's I was curious to learn.
It's funny with naming a brand. You'll never pick a name that keeps everybody happy, but I've always managed to pick names that people don't forget.
Yeah.
So even now, years later, people will say, oh, you were Miss, I remember you were Miss Doolittle, weren't you? So they don't remember my name, but they remember the brand, which is what I've always aspired to, is brands.
I actually think naming a business is more difficult than building and running a business. It's the bit that kind of catches me, but you seem to have a knack for it and being able to do it quite well. But I struggle with it. I think when it comes to it, I just say to people, this is the name, and if anybody else has a different name, we'll consider it, but it's the name until you decide to change it. But so how did so at that point then, obviously what age were you when Doolittle's was catching fire?
Catching fire, I think I started it around, I can't remember now, in my mid to late early 20s, and it died a very painful, slow death in 2008.
So you picked up your first battle scar.
Oh yeah, my first really bad battle scar. Yeah, back then. Yeah.
And then like I suppose just in terms of like the thing that I've become to know you quite well with is probably from the start of FitPink and from that point forward, and just in terms of what you're at now and what FitPink is at. Like what is FitPink? What do you do? What's the big idea? And who are your customers? And if you would be kind enough just to give me a quick introduction to FitPink, which is what you're at now.
So we're a female-focused athleisure brand. We are really, our target customer is kind of 25 to about 55.
Okay.
We started, as we said, back in 2019, just before the pandemic, and the business just took off within 6 weeks of the lockdown starting. So we had an amazing pandemic. We got a great kind of early groundswell of customers. We have products from leggings, jumpers, t-shirts, all that kind of gear for women. We have about 50,000 customers, we think, on our books. We've managed to build a really loyal following that's really passionate about our brand, which is great. We really focus hard on fit. So you hear a lot about quality, and quality is obviously hugely important, and we do a very good quality range, but people don't talk about it as fit and consistency of fit of products like that, and fit for the female shape. It kind of occurred to me when I was starting the business that leggings by the very big brands, the Nikes and the Adidas, must have been designed by men, because they certainly weren't fitting for a female form. So it was our ambition to try to make products that really fit the female shape and are made with the female shape in mind. And as we know, women don't come in a size 6. They come in anything from a 6 to a 24. So it's trying to find products that are flattering and functional for women.
And how many products have you got in the range at the moment?
I think we're about 60 different lines. When we started, we had 2 pairs of leggings and 2 t-shirts and a hoodie, and that was it. We always said that we wanted quite a small curated brand. We didn't really want to be the Shein, where you have new stuff coming out every day. And that's, we've kind of kept to that as much as we can, but we find that people that are passionate about the brand are onto us all the time about when are you going to make such and such, or when are you going to make that jumper in more colors, or we really want to get those leggings in prints. So you tend to, because we are very driven, our customer development, our customer really drives our new product development. It's important that we do kind of keep growing and keep adding products. So
like being close to your customer and listening to your customer and understanding what they're saying and taking both the positive and the negative feedback and processing all that is what's driving new product development.
Absolutely, yeah. So if we're considering a new type of product, a lot of the time we will put it up on Instagram stories and just get people to vote on a poll. When we're considering additional colours of a well-selling item, we'll put 2 colours up on Instagram and pick this or that, and that's exactly what we'll order.
There's I don't know if you've read about it, but from my understanding, one of the key to success in the Zara brand is actually that it's that they are very quick at the connection between getting a product range out, understanding how it's going in retail stores, and being able to actually roll it out across, internationalize it or take it back in, and kind of, so it's that connection between your customer and understanding your customer that I would deem, from my kind of little bits of knowledge, as being one of the key success factors in a fashion brand. I'm curious to understand more. So of all the entrepreneurs that I've met and that are, operating in small business environments, and particularly e-commerce businesses that are selling online, I think you're one of the most savvy. So I think when you talk about marketing, you have an understanding for it, which is as good as anybody that I've met, and that comes from like marketing professionals and so on. So, in terms of your skill sets in business, would you agree with that compliment?
I would, yeah.
And I think, and with that said, like, what do you think are the key components of the marketing success of FitPink?
So I would agree that kind of branding and marketing would be what I'm good at. With any business I've started, it's always been about brand building. I just have a thing about building a brand that's there after I've, passed away or passed on, whatever the case may be. And marketing is key to that. So I think I suppose the way I've educated myself over the years is I just dive in and I learn by tinkering. So I'm quite curious. I built my own website and I wouldn't have considered myself technical. I only got an email address in 2007, so that's how technical I was. But so I just opened a Shopify account and figured it out as I went along. It's not difficult. It's just time consuming. And I think you need patience for it and a curious mind. So same with anything in digital marketing. Marketing has become quite technical now. So it's the same as that, just diving in and learning as you go.
And so I think as this marketing space has evolved, you've got this specialization thing what happens. So it's very hard to be somebody who builds a website and it's going to be amazing at Google Ads or does Google Ads and is also equally amazing at Facebook ads or does either the performance stuff and then it's going to be amazing at social. So one of the things that's interesting about you is that you seem to have like a real deep knowledge in each of those spaces, but then enough to bring in professionals and kind of get that extra 25 or 30%. So in terms of what's driving sales in FitPink at the moment, what are the key marketing channels?
Well, I wouldn't say I have deep expertise in all of those areas. So I think I'm a good generalist. But you're right, I do know when I need to bring in somebody else that can do a better job. So the key marketing in FitPink at the moment would be meta ads, affiliates, and user-generated content. So meta ads have been, a huge part of our development from day one, really. We've always used meta. We're lucky in that we've always managed to get a good first order profitable cost. Our conversion rate's always been decent. Yeah. Yes, the cost has gone up as everybody's experience with Meta over the last 2 or 3 years. But yeah, it keeps delivering and keeps growing. And now our big challenge is to replicate that into other countries. So we've started ads in the UK. And so far we're getting a similar customer acquisition cost.
Which is unusual.
Yeah,
Seems to be. You seem to have... It seems that your customer acquisition costs in the UK is similar to what you're getting in Ireland, which is unusual from what I've heard anyway.
I think so, but I think the trick with Meta is scaling it, and it's lots of people are doing fine on Meta to a point. Yeah. And the challenge that we have, the big challenge in our business is scaling our business, and a lot of that's going to be scaling Meta and other channels and leaning into other channels. That's why we've started affiliates this year, and that's going quite well. We're going to be one of the first businesses in Ireland to launch a TikTok shop.
Okay.
So we're actually working with TikTok now and some of their third-party contractors to get our little TikTok shop ready for launch in October. And that's been an interesting process. So, yeah.
How far away are you from launching the TikTok shop?
They tell me October. I think we're ready to go anytime now, but they're not launching till October. So.
And have you dived in and started tinkering and understanding what success looks like in TikTok yet?
Yeah, so it's doing very well in other countries, and it's driven a lot by content creators. Okay. So they kind of can get an affiliate link fairly easily to link directly to your TikTok shop. So I think it's the growth there is going to be driven by content creators.
Because I can count on one hand the number of people that I've met along the way who've been successful on TikTok, and I think obviously you got to surf the right wave, and if there's a wave to be surfed at the moment, as everybody realizes that acquisition costs in Meta are getting tighter, then I think TikTok is the wave. But I've yet to meet somebody who has managed to figure it out.
Maybe that's because there was no TikTok shop until now in Ireland.
Of course, yeah, all right, okay,
jumping on. So yeah, I mean, look, it's a risk as well as anything, but it's not a huge risk to start out with. We can just try these things, and I think if you're an early adopter of these things, you tend to do quite well over time. Yeah.
So what are the key trends that you see happening in marketing at the moment that you think are likely to continue in the next few years?
Key trends, I think, are really centered around AI. So obviously AI, everybody's using ChatGPT for content writing. You can see it in a lot of content in Instagram. I think it still they haven't got it right. They haven't nailed the kind of necessarily the brand personality for every brand. It can be a little bit Americanized, but it's absolutely has its uses. AI for personalization, being able to serve products to people based on their past buying history. Things like augmented reality. So IKEA have been doing it for years, showing you how you can have a room if you buy their product or how it would look. Makeup brands have started it in the last year, so you can try on a lipstick virtually. It'll show you exactly what that color will look like on your own skin tone by uploading a photo. So yeah, I think virtual reality and augmented reality in particular. There's a lot of, I think, software companies and apps trying to develop products around sizing, getting sizing right in e-commerce. I haven't seen any of them really break through into general websites and become part of the general e-commerce toolbox, but I'm sure they'll crack that soon, and that will be fundamental to selling clothing products online. I think sizing is a big barrier. So,
reduce the return rates, I presume.
Yeah, we have a very low return rate,
which is again unusual.
Yeah, we do a lot of work on sizing first. Like I said, fit and consistency of sizing is a huge thing with us. So everything we have is true to size. People will message us and we'll get back really quickly if they're looking for sizing advice. But yeah, I think returns in general in sort of fast fashion are quite significant. So when there's sizing advice or there's virtual reality working on sizing, that'll reduce that.
I have seen people on the various New Frontiers EI courses, and I've seen what they're doing. It's like that. It kind of looks like it could be great, but it's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen anything yet that's quite there. And from my experience, I'd probably be like yourself, an early adopter of most of this stuff. And ChatGPT seems to strip all the fun out of language. It's kind of it's okay for me for giving someone like a letter for a mortgage approval or something. But if it's for kind of you're trying to get a tone of voice for a brand or something like that, it just makes it so grey and black, and it just strips all the fun out of it in some ways. But but yeah, obviously it's going to evolve and get better. So I agree with you. I think it's going to have a massive impact. So we've spoken about marketing and marketing successes. Where are the challenges at the moment for trying to grow a business which is predominantly online from a marketing perspective?
From a marketing perspective, I suppose I can only speak about our challenges. I'm sure they're different for everybody. What we find has worked in the past well that isn't working now are things like influencers. So back in 21, influencers were just starting to get popular. And now I think it's oversaturated. So, gifting influencers and hoping they post content and people buy because of it isn't happening anymore. Gifting influencers works great if you need content created, and they can create fantastic content. But I think they've lost a lot of their credibility and authenticity, maybe, that they would have had at the start, just over time and the sheer volume of products they're promoting. What else hasn't worked? Google Ads is something we've always struggled with. So Meta's worked well for us, but Google Ads we've always struggled with a little bit. And yeah, we'll probably revisit that. I think it's worth revisiting things and trying again with different people looking at it and at a different time. But really, I think we always try to remember that what worked well then won't necessarily work well now. So we're always quite mindful of trying to develop other sales channels and not be too reliant on Meta. So that's why we started affiliates this year, is to try to de-risk Meta really for us.
I suppose, and again, you're a little bit of an outlier in terms of your continued success online, but I do acknowledge from speaking with lots of e-commerce brands that in a post-COVID world, the landscape changed, the environment changed
hugely,
and it used to be the case in a pre-COVID world whereby it was every night was a winning night at the casino. You put €100 into the Facebook ads and you could get anywhere from 10x or whatever back out again, and everybody's a winner. And it seems that there's been a few things that have happened post-COVID. Number one, I think the impact of the changes in GDPR kind of took a few years in terms of the targeting that was possible in the Meta environment. That's kind of tightened up a little bit in terms of how you can target customers. I think the audience in Meta is timing out. I think they're getting a little bit older. Yeah. They're probably the perfect fit for you. And I think there's been other things on the retail side, like actually getting direct traffic to your website, I think has become a little bit more challenging, and that's due to in a post-COVID world, like every retailer moved online if they hadn't already. Yeah. So in terms of my assessment of the challenges that a business that's predominantly online have faced in a post-COVID world, would you agree with that assessment? Would you have experienced the same challenges in FitPink?
Absolutely. COVID was fantastic. It was a case of take my money. We weren't competing with anything else. Then post-COVID, we were competing with everything again. The world had opened up. The disposable spend wasn't quite the same. People had overbought athleisure wear and activewear during COVID. So 22 was a tough year for us. We really had to reassess how we were doing things. And again, what worked to get us to that point was going to be different, what gets us to the next stage. So we leaned into what we had. We, I suppose, looked at other tactics and tools. So yes, Meta continued to work. Email is something we really leaned into.
Okay, yeah.
So we would knock about 30% of our monthly revenue out of our email newsletters.
Okay, yeah.
So that works brilliantly well. And it's trying to, there are different strategies, I suppose, with our customer base. One is trying to re-engage customers that had bought previously. And then it's new customers is the other side of that. So it's different approaches for different segments.
I think it seemed athleisure and chocolate was the two online COVID brands where everybody was either exercising or eating chocolate. But for me, I think, like it knocked some of the madness that was there to be an online business pre-COVID, whereby old school business became required to be successful online, whereby you had to have a great product, you have to understand your customer, you have to service them well. Things that you might have been able to get away without doing by just pure kind of crazy customer acquisition or return on ad spends in a pre-COVID world has now become, it's still possible to be very successful online, but you got to be a good business to be so. So you can't mask it with just kind of crazy returns and ad spends. And I think that's one of the areas that I see FitPink has been great at. You seem to have a really passionate customer base, people that really care about the brand and really do are really proud to wear FitPink products. Is that something you've recognized?
It is, absolutely. We can see from our own stats that 50% of our new business comes directly to our website.
Yeah.
So that's not advertising. So that can only be word of mouth.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic to know that our customer base are recommending us to their friends, because that's much more powerful than any ad you'll ever see, is when you get a personalized recommendation.
Yeah, it really is. I think again an outlier to other e-commerce brands that I have worked with and I'm working with in some ways. But so what's the big idea? What's the big vision for FitPink over the next 3 to 5 years? Where do you want to go with it?
Just scale. We're at a stage where we don't have lots of distractions. We don't have fires to put out here, there, and everywhere. We have product market fit. We have a loyal customer base. We know our product and our supply chain is great. Our pricing is right. Our quality is right. So really, it's about scale now, and that is our big challenge. But we're very focused on it, and we can be very focused on it because everything else is working quite well.
And where do you see the opportunities for achieving that scale?
Opportunity further in the UK, further in Ireland, of course. The UK and the EU predominantly would be our next sort of 3 to 5 years would be our next focus. Wholesale we're starting to look at as well. Co-branded product for gyms, Pilates studios, yoga studios, any female-focused exercise studios would be ideal. We're going to push into that too.
Any ambitions to sell on marketplaces, or have you looked there at all?
We dipped our toe into Amazon back in 21. I think we spent about 15 grand over 3 months, and we got one sale. Absolute disaster, if ever there was one. So not to say I would avoid marketplaces, I just would probably avoid Amazon. But I figured out, I think that the reason for that is you go on Amazon to buy something either unbranded or your favorite brand at a much lower price.
Yeah.
So when we're in the first few years since we started, we didn't have massive brand awareness on Amazon, and people would just search up black leggings, go for the cheapest pair they could find, and obviously we weren't going to be the cheapest. But yeah, we would look at other marketplaces. I mean, I think something like over 70% of all online shopping is done on marketplaces.
And growing.
So yeah, it is something we need to look closely at.
It all sounds very exciting, and I look forward to seeing what comes next. I suppose just going back a little bit to your own experience as an entrepreneur, obviously you've rode the roller coaster of being both successful in business and the challenges of trying to rescue a business that's going in the wrong direction and all the stress that brings.
Yeah.
And I think unless you've been involved with a business or been through it, nobody quite understands how all-encompassing that can be. So that all sounds very exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing the success of FitPink in the years to come. But reversing back just a little bit to your background and your experience as an entrepreneur, and being somebody who's been at the coalface for the number of years that you have, and being somebody who's been involved as part of a business that's been successful and then challenging part of a business that's not going so well. Through that experience, was there any key lessons that you picked up, either personally or business-wise?
Yeah, hundreds. How long do you have? I think probably, you would learn the most lessons from my failures rather than my successes. When Doolittle's went into liquidation, that was like a death in the family, because I had invested everything of myself personally and financially into the business over the course of whatever it was, 8 or 9 years. And then when it went, it left a massive hole. So I suppose I've learned to become more still passionate about the business, but not in love with the business. So I look at it a little bit more from a data perspective. And I've tried my best to make sure that I can, switch off and be present after work and not work ridiculous hours. I think that's made me a better business person, really, because
that's interesting.
I do have downtime, and I still struggle with it, absolutely, when there's things going on, or I'm in the middle of a sort of a project. I still struggle with it, absolutely. But I walk the beach and clear my head and, try to be present for everybody else in my life.
I think it's an important lesson. It's something I fail to do, if I'm honest, and something I've learned in the last few years.
I think it's easy to say, but it's a lot harder to do.
Yeah. You got to fight for that little bit, because especially as the team gets bigger and there's a bunch of stuff, and kind of you become the kind of one point of contact for all the stuff that circulates the business, and it becomes more increasingly challenging to try and find that time for yourself. But I've learned to just make sure that there is that time in the week whereby I'm not actually a Richie business person. I'm doing something quite similar to yourself, I'd say.
I think other things I've learned are around cash flow. Every business I've had in different sectors, cash flow is the be all and end all. It absolutely is. I think too, I would say not to hire too early. So with FitPink, I stayed in my day job for the first 16 months. And that allowed me to plow the money that was coming in back into stock and into investing in the business, rather than being stuck for money from day one because I'm taking it out in salary. And I think, trying not to add to your fixed costs until you absolutely have to. So unless you're well funded and on an extremely fast growth trajectory, I would say put off hiring as long as you can. And even then, when you do, trying to hire revenue generating roles rather than ancillary or support type roles that you can outsource, just to really be mindful of that cash and know that it's 1 or 2 months could wipe you out.
Especially in an e-commerce business with long lead times, and you're buying the stock, and you're kind of to the fashion thing, and you're trying to buy the quantity, and there's promotions going on, kind of juggling that part of a product business, but especially an e-commerce product business it can be quite challenging. I suppose just making sure that you've got a good understanding of your finances is fundamental, which again is another skill set that you would have had in addition to the marketing. Just one of the things that I know we've touched on it previously, and I'm aware of it, but I don't actually know the background. Is what was the EY journey like, and what was it meant to you then, and what was it meant to you now in terms of the people that you met?
It was fantastic. It was back in 2007, so I was still in Doolittle's. I was nominated for it by Pádraig Ó Céide, who is the founder and chair of Éireann, Galway man. I would have been in a O2 Businesswoman of the Year awards before that, and he was a judge, so I think that's how he came across me, nominated me. Lo and behold, I get in as one of the emerging businesses. And it was just probably one of the best things I've ever done professionally, was that network. It just plugged me straight into a bunch of like-minded people that were several steps or a few steps further than I was in the business. In a variety of different sectors and industries, with different perspectives. And still to this day, whatever it is, nearly 20 years later, we've a WhatsApp group where you can ask a question or looking for a contact in anything, and you're guaranteed an answer or a direct message in a few minutes.
Oh, wow.
It's an amazing network. It really, really is. It's something you can't buy your way into. It's you're either in it, or you're not. There was some amazing trips. So in my year, we were taken to Miami and Haiti, and the theme was corporate social responsibility.
Okay.
So we spent a few days in the comfort of a lovely 5-star hotel in Miami, and then a lot more days sleeping in tents on a beach in Haiti, driving everywhere in armored cars, and it was a phenomenal experience.
It's one way to get to know the people in the posse if you're going to be roughing it with them.
Exactly,
like that.
Yeah. When you spend a week together, still we're close. There's alumni events every a few times a year. We have a regional events here in Galway. We a few of us from the Northwest tend to meet on a regular basis. But I would probably say it's probably the most influential and helpful group I've been a part of professionally.
It can be a lonely journey sometimes if you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur, which you are in FitPink. And the value of a network like that is wonderful, because I think being able to plug into people like that when things are both going good and going bad is invaluable.
It is, yeah. I think particularly when they're going bad, because they've all been through it too. They don't gloss over it. They know that there are tough days as well as good days, and all these things pass, whether it's good or bad. It's guaranteed to pass. It is quite lonely. It can be lonely at times. Other people don't understand necessarily why you're doing what you're doing, and other people who maybe work 9 to 5 find it easy to switch off and don't understand why you can't switch off. And of course, everybody's an expert until they do it themselves. So there's no point taking advice from them.
But, if there's any advice I give to people is don't listen to anybody who isn't doing it.
Exactly.
It's just completely blank out anybody who isn't actually trying to do what you're doing or have some relevant experience to it, because friends and family are great, but you don't necessarily want to be taking business advice from people that aren't in business or understand kind of the juggling of the moving parts that's required.
But that being said, I wouldn't do anything else. I'm 49. I've been in business since I was 18. I'm not wealthy yet, but I'm still working on it. I still wouldn't do anything else. I've had a handful of other jobs. I've lectured, worked for New Frontiers, but I absolutely love what I do, and there's nothing else I'd rather be doing.
Where does that passion come from? Is it, were you born with it? Is it come from your family? Where do you think, was it just the fact that you started so young and that became the bug?
I think it's partly family. So most of my dad's side of the family, a lot of his siblings, he was one of 7. I think 4 of them are self-employed entrepreneurs. I'm not really sure. It's just always been there. I think it's the fact that I'm kind of like a free range chicken. I can do my own thing in a day. Nobody's telling me to sit there from 9 to 5 and don't move. I really enjoy that variety, and I enjoy when I'm not particularly enjoying one thing in the business, I can get interested in something else or develop another part of it. Enjoy seeing growth in people that are working with me. So I've had, say, my buying manager, Emma's been with us from almost the start, and to see her professional development from then to now is really satisfying too, to have been a little part of that.
If you do it for long enough, there's no way back. You're unhireable.
Unhireable, that's exactly me. Yeah, totally unemployable.
Because it's just the variety in the day, and you can kind of just that sense of getting up each morning and figuring it out for yourself, and there's nobody telling you what to do, and it's all interesting stuff because you've kind of built your own business, which means it's all the stuff you find interesting anyway. So it's just,
I think too, the speed at which you can do things is very different from the corporate world. I haven't had much experience in the corporate world, but the bit that I have had, things happen a lot slower because there's more people that are involved in having to have their say or make a decision. Whereas, you can make a decision fairly quickly and then regret it later, I'm sure. But
okay, well then it just means that the bridges are burned behind you. So there's only one way for FitPink to go from this point forward.
That's it. Exactly.
Is there anything we should watch out for with FitPink or yourself in the next year or in the years to come that you're excited about?
Absolutely. As I said, we're really trying to push into the UK. We're currently selling, I'd say about 10% of our revenues coming from the UK. And that's very little effort has gone into that as yet. It's just meta ads and trying to serve up a good website. We'll probably do some fundraising now this quarter to try and help scale into the UK. So to really lean into the parts of our marketing that we know work, and to develop our product range to be able to do that, and push further into the UK. The response we've had so far from that customer base we've managed to build so far is working really well. We can get product to the UK in 1 to 2 days, which is the same as our Irish market, and great feedback so far.
And once again, you're one of the people that I know that has had successes in raising funding over the course of the last number of years. And I would advise anybody who's interested in owning a piece of this future of FitPink to watch this space. Feel free to share whatever promo materials are going to be coming out, Jenni, and I'll
Absolutely.
give you a shout out on the various platforms. But yeah, I'd just like to move towards wrapping up and say thank you so much for taking the time for traveling down from Donegal to visit me here. And it's been really enjoyable to watch the success since the days in EI where you're busy building your own website and getting early sales in. In the back of Richie's
finance classes, yeah. I'll be there with my laptop working away.
And to see where FitPink is now, and I'm just excited to see what happens with the fundraising and where you go to next year. But thank you once again, and appreciate it.
Great, thanks. Great to be here.